Hi, everybody. So, over the last several class periods, we have talked quite a bit about audiences and thinking about audiences and ways to approach different audiences and strategies for considering audiences. We've talked about audiences a bunch, okay? And we have also talked a little bit over at least one video and then a couple of class discussions. We've talked a little bit also about, as you consider your audiences, using what you know about them or what you can guess about what they already know as sort of a launching point for an explanation. So we're working our way together up to an explanatory essay. And so we've talked a little bit about explaining the strange by way of the familiar, right? Like starting with what your audience already knows or what you think they might know, and building on that to kind of lead them into this more complex thing that you're here to explain. And so I wanted today to kind of piggyback on that and talk to you about what you know that you may not know that you know, and do a little bit of practice with explaining the strange in terms of the familiar. So here's kind of how I'm putting that together. So I've mentioned, I know I've mentioned in this class before that I do consulting work and like digital communications kind of thing. I build websites for people and maintain them, and I also, this is the kind of key point here, develop social media content for them, but I further that by teaching clients how to make their own social media posts so that they no longer have to hire an outside person to do it, and I work with a lot of smaller businesses, and so that saves them some money, okay? One of the things that I end up telling these folks a lot and kind of using as I'm training them to make their posts is that really everything you need to know to make a good social media post you already learned in your college essay writing classes. You see where I'm going with this. Because most of my clients are people who have already been to college, maybe it was a while ago, but they have essay writing skills. And those are the same skills that you use to make social media content, especially if you're promoting a product or, a fundraiser or, for a school or promoting your personal brand or whatever. If you've got if you've got a thesis essentially, right? Like if you've got a thing that you want people to do after they see your post, it works in reverse too, okay? Now you won't all be social media gurus, okay? I don't buy into the thing that sometimes there's an assumption among people my age that the kids these days are really into the social media. Some of you are. Some of you are merely consumers of, maybe you scroll through Pinterest, but you're not a content producer. That's fine, right? But implicitly, there's a good chance that many of you have at least some familiarity with a few social media platforms. And here's the thing, you can recognize, once you realize what you're looking for, you become conscious of the elements that are useful, and the elements that are useful in a social media post are also the elements that are usually useful in an essay, okay? And so this is kind of how that works. The elements are always comprised of, the stuff you have to say, often the reason you're going to say it, right? So there's a thesis here. It's not just informational. And the people you're going to tell it to, okay? And just as you kind of need to have a sense of what the aesthetic expectations are for a good Instagram post, or what people are most likely to notice and remember about a Facebook post, or even the kind of language and where you put the hashtags on a Pinterest post, because different platforms will put them in different places and all this kind of stuff. That kind of awareness of understanding an audience's expectations, so what they're looking for in a given context, and understanding how to frame whatever you're going to tell them in such a way that it connects with them. And I don't just mean connect emotionally, although sometimes you want to do that in an essay or in a social media post, in such a way that your message is intelligible, okay? It makes sense in the context you're presenting it and in the way you're delivering it. In the academic essay context, that usually means following the appropriate format, and cueing your audience with a clear introduction and wrapping up the introduction with a thesis statement and so forth. Those are the same skills as, your call to action and where you place it. Like understanding, because many of you will intuitively, even if you don't create a lot of social media content, you will intuitively understand where the call to action is supposed to go because you've seen a bunch of the posts. It's the same kind of deal as you develop the skills of reading lots of academic essays and writing them yourselves. You'll start to get a feel for where the rousing conclusion should go. And the kinds of evidence that you use in a social media post are different from the kinds of evidence that you use in an academic essay much of the time. But the strategy for finding how many examples are appropriate is the same. It's the same strategy. Okay, I need this many examples. If I'm going to show this product, I need 3 or 4 pictures. If I'm going to show readers why we should do X, I need 3 or 4 examples of how that will work in practice. It's the same strategy, okay? And hopefully that's useful to you in terms of thinking about what you're seeing in essays that you read, in social media posts that you see, and how to reproduce it, right? Because you see way more content of any kind than you're ever going to produce yourselves. But part of producing it well, and this goes back to that genre concept that we've talked about before, part of producing it well consists of recognizing what the norms are and what the slight differences and variations can be that cue your audience, this is this particular subvariant, right? This is a slideshow or carousel post versus this is a proposal essay, or this is a definition essay, or this is an explanation. So I'm wanting you to think in terms of what you already know about how you choose evidence, okay? Because it doesn't change as much as you might think. Like the types of evidence that you use across different projects, across different platforms, across different essay types, the types of evidence that you use vary pretty widely. I mean, it's going to be different with every project. But the strategy for thinking about who's my audience and what evidence will reach them, what will speak to them, that strategy doesn't change that much, okay? The foregrounding of, okay, who am I trying to get through to? What's important to those people? That's at the core, okay? Whatever the communicative method is, right? Like whatever the form of delivery is, whether it's a Twitter post, you just call those a tweet. It's not a Twitter post, it's a tweet. Whether it's a tweet or an essay or a grant proposal or your sales pitch, whatever it is, you're still going to be thinking about who's my audience? Out of all of the information that's available to me, what will connect with them? How do I present it in a way that makes a difference, right? Changes their minds or helps them to understand why I'm presenting it this way or gives them more perspective than they had before, whatever you're trying to achieve in that particular essay. All right? That's it for today. Talk to you soon.